What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Jack Slack. Fight's gone by 108. Coming at you on the 4th of December, getting into Christmas mood. Started listening to Christmas songs already. And we've had a ridiculously bumper crop of fights over the weekend. So much so that I haven't actually caught up on most of it. Still got to watch Actually, I did watch the Narkun versus Kaladov fight. Haven't caught up on the rest of KSW. I know that Soldic scored a wicked KO. And that Kleber Erbst lost, which is a shame because I was writing a Prospect Watch piece on him a while ago, which I subsequently forgot about and then left. But maybe I'll finish it and put it up for the Patreon boys. So what's going on in the news? Big news this week. Sage Northcutt is the latest signing with ONE FC. He has left his UFC deal, which was ridiculous if you remember. I think at one point he was getting 100,000 total, like 50k show, 50k win, which is, what you would want as a fighter, but also ridiculous compared to what better guys were coming in on. The UFC were desperate to push this lad to high heaven, and he just wasn't there. He's still only 22, but he's been training like full time his entire life. He's basically been bred for this. He's 12 fights in, and he's still not very good. I mean, his last fight was probably his biggest win to date, but yeah, his grappling. People see his grappling as a flaw, and then I watch his striking, and I go, he does that thing where he throws rear, I don't like saying cross, right straight, just step forward into southpaw, left straight, and then get cracked by the counter every single time. Barberena was lighting him up, and then he throws like lead leg side kicks to the body all the time from an orthodox stance against orthodox opponents, and it gets parried and gets taken down by guys like Cody the Sister Fister. So yeah, Northcutt, not great, but Chatri Sityodong came out on the MMA Hour and said, no shit, that Sage Northcutt is the pound-for-pound most talented fighter on the planet. Now, if aesthetics are a talent, I feel like in MMA there's this, in sports in general, there's this perception that aesthetics equals athleticism. Like, Gordon Ryan, people just go on and on about him being absolutely jacked. But the dude trains like a bodybuilder. Sage Northcutt was also a bodybuilder until he became a fighter. So get an athletic guy, and if they really want to look like that, they will look like that. But you have to specifically put in time to look like that. It's not like you're just born looking like that, or you do some light exercise and you look like that, or you just train for another sport and you look like that. There are plenty of guys who are absolutely juiced to the tits just doing Olympic lifts and not looking like that. However, Sage Northcutt, up there with Ramiro and Paulo Costa as the pound-for-pound bravest man in MMA, just tested by USADA every other week and still just looking like he does. Oh, no, I hope he does well over there. They'll feed him a ton of cans, and then he'll probably come back when he's like 26, 27. Unless ONE FC gets the Fox deal, which is I say Fox deal. They're saying they've got a major TV deal coming up. I feel like Chatri was saying that a few months ago too. I think he just says that he's getting one and then expects other people to offer him one. That's his strategy. Mind you, a lot of his stuff is so transparent and still works. There are over 100 million in the hole now, and his plan for getting more money is to expand and keep borrowing, not borrowing money, but keep getting idiot fail sons of billionaires to invest money in his business that doesn't actually make a profit at any point. I love ONE FC. It's come along and it's just become the most interesting story in the sport, because at some point these loans and all the creditors are going to call in their debts, or their credits? No, their debts, and it's all going to go tits up. And then I'm going to use my favourite SpongeBob meme, which I have saved on my computer just for when this happens, which says in, alternately caps and lowercase letters, gotta spend money to make money. And it's the SpongeBob doing the retarded chicken thing. But yeah, if they want Sage, more power to him. I'm sure he can spin kicks and cans over there. Slightly more enraging news, Ryan Jimmo's killer gets 8 years on a plea deal. If you remember this story, I don't want to go too much into the details of it because I can barely remember it, but he got in an argument with someone, and I believe as he was walking back to his car, the dude ran him over and then fled the scene. And so 6 years of this is for the murder or manslaughter or whatever it was, and 2 years of this is for the fleeing. So 6 years for killing someone. Not bad for that dude. Sucks for Ryan Jimmo though. I like Ryan Jimmo. Well, I'm sure Ryan Jimmo's wife and friends liked Ryan Jimmo a lot. So fuck that guy, the guy who ran him down. Yeah, Jimmo was an interesting fight. He wasn't always the most fun in the world, but he had a very interesting style. He was another one of those ones with like a karate bouncy style, who just drew people onto strikes. And he never really got it down to the level where he could act strikes all the time. I think I said when I was examining his style ages ago, he's like Machida, but actually is a detriment to his style by being too active. He'll step in too often as he's trying to draw the opponent forward, whereas Machida would take like half a round off, just letting the guy come at him, and then he'd step in and counter. It's like, how do you get a dude to run in with no regard for his safety? He's not going to do it if you keep showing him that you're going to hit him when he steps forward. Other fun news, Adesanya versus Silva for UFC 234. I don't know if that's fun. I know you all expect me to just shit all over Anderson Silva, but if Anderson Silva beats Israel Adesanya, I think that would be the crowning achievement of his career, to be honest, because he's old, for one, and Adesanya is a much better striker than anyone Silva's fought. You can't debate that. Like, even if you think that Silva versus, the Silva that fought Forrest Griffin or someone like that would turn up against the modern strikers today and do exactly the same thing, which he wouldn't. Game's very different. You can't claim that anyone who's fought is on the level of Adesanya. I mean, people will draw up the Pereira loss from Adesanya's record, but Adesanya was very close to being glory champion, and he was well within the top 10 kickboxing in the world in his weight class before he came over. And he suffered a knockout against Pereira, but Pereira's left hook is ridiculous. And I think he was beating Pereira up in that fight. Can't remember. But Adesanya should be a real bad fight for Silva, because he feints so well and so often. And he has an excellent jab from both stances. And those things really piss Silva off. In addition, he's got a good kicking game and longer kicks and punches than Silva for the most part. So again, without hating on Anderson Silva, that's a rough fight for him. And he's, it's so late in the day. And they've promised him a title shot, allegedly, if he wins this one. But that's probably just Dana White talking out his arse. If Silva wins that one, there's no denying that that's absolutely incredible. I feel kind of bad for him, to be honest, in this fight. But again, he's a wily old hand. He's not he's not the best striker of all time in his prime, like a lot of people want to pretend. But he's still, as an old man, savvy enough that he can just use the rounds and hold dudes off and stall enough, and then just burst at them with something out of nowhere, like the body kick against Daniel Cormier out of nowhere after stalling him out in half guard with the lockdown and not getting hurt much. I was watching Silva Sonnen 2 the other day. I'm doing some I'm rewriting the Silva section of Advanced Striking, and I'll put that up for the Patreon boys, I think, this month. So I'm just trying to add some stuff to that, because it's been years since I wrote it, and I'm just trying to make it more of like a complete biographical sketch of his style and career. But I was watching the Sonnen 2 fight, and he's so well, and Sonnen 1 actually, he's so good at stopping dudes from doing meaningful things on the ground. His guard game was never like sweep dudes, and very rarely submitting dudes. With the Travis Lutter one, sort of came out of nowhere by way of upkick too, I believe. But a lot of it was like body triangle on opponent in closed guard and things like that. He was very good at stopping people from hitting him well. Now, the interesting point is, what if Silva can surprise Adesanya with his wrestling? Like the nice trippy hit on Stephan Bonner. Obviously, Stephan Bonner, even at that time, not a great fighter. But Anderson Silva has always been good with trips and things out of the clinch. He's just not a guy who pursues the takedown. I think he could probably... I think going to the clinch and using trips and knees and elbows from there would be the best way to try and stick it to Adesanya. I think he's going to be really struggling if he sits back and tries to counter, especially if he does the fence bollocks against a guy with as long and good a jab and feints as Adesanya. But we'll talk more about that fight, when we get close to fight time. Another interesting one announced for UFC 233. Actually, should mention UFC 234 that Silva versus Adesanya is on. Obviously, Gastelum versus Whittaker, which is going to be big with the Anzac community, the Aussies and the New Zealanders, or Kiwis, I believe they prefer to be called. So if you were setting up Adesanya for a title shot at either Gastelum or Whittaker, that's a good card to have him on. And obviously Adesanya is doing quite well as an attraction, whereas Robert Whittaker is, one of the best fighters who ever lived, and nobody seems to give a shit. I think the combined buy rate for the two Ramiro fights was like 300,000 people, which is absolutely tragic because those were two of the best fights in MMA ever. That was like the highest level MMA, highest level drama you're going to see between two of the highest level fighters who've ever fought. I swear I moan about that every podcast. But anyway, Aldo versus Swanson, booked for UFC 233, which is an interesting one because I've always used that example of Aldo versus Swanson 1 as how much blowing someone out of the water can do for you. Because Cub Swanson was always an intriguing matchup for Aldo, and he earned tons of wins, during the time that Aldo was champion. I don't think he ever really got the title, earned the title shot, but he was always in that position where if you said, well, he's on a good streak, he could step in for a title shot, people to go, puh, well, he was kneed in 6 seconds, mate. And getting kneed in 6 seconds, as someone who watches fights and it has to draw information out of them and say, well, these are the habits of the so-and-so, that fight tells you nothing. You know nothing more about how those two match up after the fight than you did before the fight. And that's, this was an old Roy Jones strategy. The more you respect someone, the more you believe someone to be an actual challenge, the more you should just try and catch them cold, because they're going to expect you to respect them and feel them out. And also, if you can get one up on someone, it's so hard to earn a rematch at the highest levels of the game. You could spend your whole career searching for a rematch. In fact, he probably has, Cub Swanson. So, very interesting, this matchup. I would probably still side with Aldo if he's still Aldo in any way, shape, or form. But, when was the last time we saw Aldo come out and try and starch someone in the opening seconds? And that's not to say that he was terrified of Cub Swanson, but it just shows how out of character that fight was, and it was always treated like he'd just do that again. There were always these people calm down, mate, got knocked out in 6 seconds, never deserves a shot at Aldo again. Also, isn't Swanson on a losing streak? Haven't they put him in with some really rough ones? I know he just lost to Moicano, but I feel like he loses more than he wins nowadays. Anyway, Chuck versus Tito, on the subject of losses, Chuck versus Tito, updated PPV estimation at 40,000 buys, from under 20,000 buys, Meltzer originally thought. Either way, if you're one of those people and you weren't the one streaming it for everyone else, fuck you. I understand, it's the worst sort of pickle to be in as a fight fan. If you really like someone, like a fighter, and you want them to be able to make a living and just, earn some money, they don't have a GoFundMe or a Patreon page, so the only way you can really fund them is for doing the job, the fighting, and they just shouldn't be. There was no way Chuck Liddell should have been licensed for that fight. Actually, one of the questions today said I didn't moan enough about it last week, so here I am being righteously indignant. Everyone involved in that licensing process should be lynched. The upside of all of this is that it's very unlikely that was profitable in any way, shape, or form. They said they sold about 5,000 tickets. I think they said they did 700,000 on the gate, but I don't believe that at all. Well, maybe they did. But with the tickets, and then if you consider that most of the pay-per-view buys were at $20, and they paid Chuck and Tito, between them they paid about $450,000. Chuck and Tito take a percentage of total revenue. So yeah, it's not going to be profitable. So if Oscar De La Hoya wants to go back to it, he'll be doing it having not done well on the first one, and I don't think he's going to get others. This had real name power attached, even if they were old as shit. It was still more than if they got I don't know, some shit hot young lightweight who's not in the UFC yet, or whatever, or Eddie Alvarez and no opponent for him, which is what one has. And then finally, Kron Gracie signs with the UFC, and he was originally rumoured to be fighting Andre Fili, my boy Touchy Fili. That would have been, I'd said that's a throwing in at the deep end, that one, because Fili trains at Alpha Male, he can stop a takedown really well, and he can box pretty well too. So you're putting Kron Gracie, who doesn't have the best takedowns in the world, much like his dad. If you saw his dad against Takada the second time, he almost lost that fight because he didn't know how to take Takada down if Takada had underhooks. It's amazing watching that fight back, considering how highly people think of Hickson and his fighting career. Straight up, Kron's already surpassed Hickson as a fighter. The level of competition he's fought in his first 4 fights. But Caceres, that's a... I don't know if he'll be able to stop any takedowns and keep Kron standing. Kron's got decent enough takedowns from his grappling career, or what I can recall of his grappling career. Hope Kron isn't going to start jumping guard like he did in his first fight, and I was just like, oh god, he's not even working on the takedowns. But yeah, Caceres is one of those ones where he could do better sticking to the basics, but he mainly does the flashy shit and wastes his energy. And then loses close decisions. But hey, might be a decent one. I think that's a good starting place for Kron Gracie in the UFC. You'll get eyes on him, but there's not a huge amount of pressure. And the level of competition isn't as high as, or the matchup isn't specifically as difficult as someone like Fili, or you put him in with someone who can really stop a takedown. I'm trying to think of who I could, I quite like doing these little exercises where if you've got a prospect or like some young gun coming in and they've got a skill, like amazing skill in one area, what's the best sort of matchup, like the highest level guy you could give them and still sort of give them a favourable matchup? Trying to think of maybe Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson's got decent takedown defense though, but that'd be really pushing Kron, like going with Michael Johnson straight out of the gate. Who doesn't have well, that's the thing. Featherweight's such a competitive class. Most of the guys in the top 10 can do everything. But yeah, if you haven't seen his fight with Kawajiri, really fun stuff. And he plays a lot of, what's it called, overwrap, underwrap. Having like an underhook from closed guard and trying to move towards the back. A really basic level skill. Well, not basic. Basic or simple? I forget which is the one that's not like... but anyway, it's a day one sort of technique, but he's very, very good with it, and he's moving towards Kawajiri's back. Did he submit Kawajiri or did he just beat him up? I can't remember. But it was a good fight. The thing about Kron is that there's this like myth that he didn't. I say myth. I sort of jumped on it too, but. People used to be like, he doesn't play any fancy modern guards. He just plays collar guard, and that's it. But he really does. Like, if you watch his fight match with Otavio Thingy at Metamoris in the gi, he's playing tons of reverse De La Riva. He just is always looking for that collar for the loop choke. And the best part was people going, and he's got a very street effective guard. And you're like, the loop choke, mate. The loop choke is an entirely sport move. But he is a beast with the loop choke. Oh, Kron Gracie at the Lomax Cup, or the Lumax Cup, or whatever it was. The one that they always credit TK with winning, even though it was like 1995. Oh, the actual Rison guy, the Rison PR guy on Reddit. I was like, so why did... I was slagging off matching Tsuyoshi Kosaka against Mirko Krokop, because Kosaka had taken like 10 years off and had been on a losing streak before that and wasn't very good to begin with, whereas Krokop is actually roided to the gills and on something of a comeback. And this guy was like, Lumax Cup? And I was just like, we're not going all the way back to the fucking Lumax Cup. What is it Dave Chappelle says? Egypt! We're going all the way back to Egypt! Oh, anyway. And of course, the news story that everyone expects me to comment on, Alexandra Albu has a fight, Stitch, or whatever she wants to be called. If you don't know, Albu has been in the UFC for about 4 years and had a couple of fights there. Very inactive, but also a student at the same time, I believe. Anyway, she was picked up with one fight, which is pretty incredible, until you check out her Instagram. Now, I'm still recovering from a sore throat, but a girl got an ass like I've never seen. There's the news. Let's talk about some of the fights I watched this weekend. It'll be a little bit more all over the place because I've only watched bits and pieces. I did watch the entire main card of the Tuivasa versus JDS card, and the main one that I watched this weekend was Fury versus Wilder. And this one, I'm surprised how contentious this has been. Most people I've seen have agreed that Fury won that fight. The punch stats seem like bollocks, because I do not remember Wilder throwing that much at all. But yeah, I mean, Fury boxed him up, gave him a boxing lesson. He was throwing less punches and landing more, better percentage and lower energy wasted. And the other interesting thing that I thought about, I wrote a whole post-fight piece called Fury and Wilder Fight to the Year's Most One-Sided Draw, which I thought was a great title. I very rarely stop to think up titles, but I quite enjoyed that one. But yeah, the interesting thing about Fury was that we were all like, oh, he's tall, so it would be harder for Wilder to hit him with the right hand, overhand and things like that. And, he'll be able to leverage guard over the shoulder. He'll be able to catch the head and pull down into the clinch, which he did. But the other thing about it was like when Gustafsson fought John Jones. Gustafsson doesn't use his reach very well, and which is ridiculous when he's so tall and so long for the weight class. But then when he fights someone his own size, suddenly all the slips and the head movement are there, and it looks great. Like this fight, Fury's going underneath the right hand. You never see, like, when Fury's fighting 6'3" guys, there is literally no need for him to duck under people's right hands. But in this fight, he was constantly moving his head, getting under the right hand, getting under the left hook when it followed, jabbing the shit out of him, feinting him back with shoulder feints. We were talking about, in my pre-fight piece at Unibet, which you should definitely read, we were talking about Gerald Washington forcing Wilder into, like, pullbacks, pulling his head straight back from jabs, and so what he'd do is pump the shoulder and then come with the jab afterwards. Now, Washington was a bit shorter and shorter in reach and height too than Fury, and Fury was able to do it constantly, just pump the shoulder, pump the jab. So yeah, most of it was a boxing lesson, and then there were 2 knockdowns, one in, I think it was round 9, which wasn't particularly hellacious, and then one in round 10 where he basically knocked him out. And then Tyson Fury just opened his eyes and went, okay, I'm getting up now. Like, it was just the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. And then he calls Wilder on, puts his hands behind his back along the ropes. Wilder comes in and he cracks him with a counter right hand and a counter left hook. And then Wilder goes back to just being like, nope, not going to throw any punches anymore. So if the rule wasn't that the knockdown wins you the round, Tyson Fury won the rest of those rounds that he was knocked down in. So, yeah, just a one-sided boxing lesson with some amazing moments from the 2 knockdowns, and then they scored it a draw, which was ridiculous, and the fucking, whatever his name was, Rohin, the Mexican judge, well, the English judge scored it a draw, and then the Mexican judge scored Wilder winning 7 rounds, which was astonishing. Just a bullshit way of keeping the belt on Wilder. Now they're talking about Wilder Joshua for the title of Can't Beat Tyson Fury title of the world. Nice thing about the draw, though, is Tyson Fury was the lineal heavyweight champion, doesn't lose his lineal heavyweight championship in this fight. Of course, lineal heavyweight championship only matters to nerds like you and me. It doesn't really matter. There's no belt that goes with it. But just another weird wrinkle in the career of Tyson Fury. The man who went undefeated and then had the shortest heavyweight title reign and was stripped of his belt and then grew to 400 pounds and came back. But yeah, he's so much more likable nowadays when he's not just being belligerent for the sake of being belligerent. Now he's actually seems to have a cause with this mental health stuff, and he just looked better than ever, I thought. And then in the UFC, what did we have? Oh, I watched the RDA versus Usman fight. That went pretty much as expected. It was sort of like a rerun of the Colby Covington fight with more effective takedowns. RDA does very well on the front foot. He's an amazing pressure fighter, and then just isn't half the man on the back foot that he is on the front foot. So lots of takedowns, lots of pressure, lots of aggression. Any time that RDA stepped in and was too close to the fence, Usman would just duck, pick up the leg, or just drive him straight back into the fence, and then suddenly, what's he going to do? He's looking for the double collar tie, and either he gets dumped on his back or he gets hit while he's looking for the double collar tie. So, I mean, fun fight if you enjoy Usman. Yeah. I can see why they might struggle to market him, because, that's not for everyone, but impressive nonetheless that he did it to RDA. RDA... I don't like being one of those people who's like, we need a 165 weight class, but RDA needs a 165 weight class. What else happened? Oh, Tyson Pedro did his thing, the usual thing, comes out looking faster, sharper than the guy he's fighting, knocks him down, and then loses the fight, just stunningly. Yeah, I mean, Shogun Rua, God, do you remember when that guy was a model? He was modelling in Brazil, and he'd come out in the bad boy shorts, looking in really good shape, and you'd go, oh, fair enough. Now he just looks a mess, and he's just bulging over his shorts. But yeah, took him down, held him down, didn't get reversed by the Kimura from the bottom of side. The Kimura, powerful reversing movement, but again, if it's your one trick, You got to be able to follow it up if you fail to flip the guy over when you're straining when you're bursting blood vessels in your eye doing the Kimura. Good on Hua for winning, but then the knockout came as Tyson Pedro's knee exploded. So, yeah, I'm done getting excited for Tyson Pedro fights. He should have won the Ovinson Prue one, and he threw that one away. So, promising, but don't get too excited for him. Hunt versus Willis, let's not even bother with this one. Standard Hunt fight, the longer it goes, the worse he looks. And he didn't get him out of there early, so you're like, oh dear. Not a retirement fight, though. Apparently just not coming back to the UFC, and he says he's got bigger, better plans. Whether that means coaching at a gym or fighting schlubs in some other organisation for half the money. We don't know. Rematch with Fedor, maybe? Or actually, they just announced Mitrione versus Sergey Haratonov for the two dudes who could beat Fedor fight. Oh, that was the other one we didn't talk about. They just announced MVP versus Daly at last, and I was like, yay! Immediately started preparing to buy tickets or get press pass, which is free. Awesome. So you only have to cover train fare, basically. So I was like, oh, cool, that'll be the O2. And then I looked at it again, and it said in Connecticut. And my reaction was just, fuck's sake, what are you doing? Apparently to do with the days and stuff. Can't remember who told me that. Probably I saw it. Team to the Junk probably said it because he's Mr. Bellator. But yeah, very disappointing. He tried to console me by being like, "You did get MVP versus Rickles." I was like, "Oh, fuck's sake! Every MVP fight before this means nothing, and you know it. MVP knows that too." But I'm looking forward to that fight so much. I just want to get this welterweight tournament underway. It's the thing I've been looking forward to forever, and they just seem to be doing it at the slow as molasses. But then that's the thing about having Rory fight middleweight and then get smashed. Got to give him time to recover. Anyway, back to these fights. What else was interesting? Oh, Sadiq Youssef, absolute boy. Couldn't not mention him on this podcast because he goes out there, smashes the dude, says I'm Black. He tweeted me after his Contender Series win. He's one of the few Contender Series matches I've watched, but saying Master of the 52, Blacksplosive. And I was like, oh, keeping an eye on him. And then he comes out and just overwhelms Mokhtarian. Mokhtarian complained a bit about the stoppage. I could understand that. It was one of those. It was one of those ones where you're like, they're not all getting through. He is just covering up and not really moving as much as he should. So yeah, I might have been better to let it go on a few seconds longer, but equally. Good shots by Youssef went in to start that off. And then he'd lost his brother too, which is sad. So good for him to get the win. But afterwards he gave us a shout out. We mainstream, baby. In the press conference, he was like, Blacksplosive, yeah. Jack Slack says it a lot. And I am Blacksplosive. So absolute legend. Really looking forward to having some more of him in that weight class. What else was interesting? Oh, Jim Creek versus Paul Craig. I thought that was good. I thought Paul Craig, his takedowns looked better in the opening round. Then he got a bit tired. His guard's always interesting. He uses he was using like a razor arm lock combined with the lockdown, because he's such a long dude. The thing about Paul Craig is that he's got good kicks. Like, he can kick pretty well, but it's really apparent that he's terrified of punching. So he just doesn't punch at all. He just exclusively kicks. But Creek did a really good job here. There was some interesting stuff he did on the floor where he kicked Craig out and tried to stand up from closed guard, and Craig pushed back in on him, and he put the hooks in as Craig was pushing him back down to the floor, and then swept him with the butterfly sweep. It was brilliant. And then he was also using a Kimura really well, threatening it from the top. And then to end, I think it was the second round or the first round, at the end of the round, he did like a real savvy move where if you've got a hold and it's the end of the round, you might as well go all out and go to the bottom trying to finish it. Like guys say, don't attempt arm bars from the mount unless you know that there's not enough time for him to work from your guard if you fail. So an arm bar is seen as like an end of the round move. Or like, I suppose triangle from the top if you want to go to the bottom to finish it. Wait till near the end of the round or the competition period if you're grappling. But yeah, he knew there wasn't much time on the clock. He had this Kimura where the hand was on the mat, and if you got the hand on the mat, the body's not in the way because the purpose is to get the hand behind the opponent and crank it up their back. So he did what Frank Mir did against I think it was Big Nog or Anthony Hardonk, I can't remember which, but if you're in half guard, you just throw yourself over to bottom position, but make sure that their arm doesn't come back inside in front of their body. And as they come up onto the top, you open your legs, so as if to like let them pass, and then you crank the Kimura and basically use it like Tyson Pedro was trying to do from the bottom of side control. You just turn them over with it, and then you're out of their guard, and you're also cranking their arm up their back. I think that was the Mcgregor one that Frank Mir finished like that. It's a real cool move. Just throw yourself to bottom position and try to tear their arm off. Oh, and there was he got the arm triangle several times going towards from half guard towards mount or whatever it was. And then he submitted. Oh, yeah, he submitted him with a Kimura in the end, but he didn't go to bottom position that time. He just got the hand behind the back and lifted Craig up, which is like an old school way to finish the Kimura. Must watch the rest of that Danaher Kimura series because it was pretty good. And I like a lot of Kimura trap stuff. I do that a lot because I'm English and we got shit wrestling. What else happened? Oh, Tony Martin, that was a good one. Fought Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews, I thought real upcoming guy after the win over the Leech. Did he beat the Leech? He must beat the Leech, yeah. And he'd been doing pretty well. And then Tony Martin caught him with a gorgeous anaconda choke. He was moving to the back from the front headlock or the sprawl position. Got the knee behind Matthews' elbow, which is a great way to go for the go behind, and you're also almost at the crucifix, but then reverses direction and falls back to the Aldo, trapping the arm in with his leg. The whole Anaconda game has been like revolutionized by dudes rolling over the top and then bringing their legs back up to try and knock the arm in at the elbow. And yeah, he reversed direction, went to the Anaconda and finished it there. It's absolutely brilliant. Choked him out too, unconscious. So that was pretty fun. That's what I've seen this weekend. Oh, in KSW, I watched the main event. Wasn't as fun as the first time around. I believe Narkin won the decision. And I just remember thinking in the early rounds, like, Khalidov doesn't... it was one of those ones where he looked like he got old overnight. The first fight, he came out, banged Narkun with punches immediately. There was a left hook that caught him and, like, made him stumble in this one. But in the first fight, he was, smashing him dead to rights, knocking him down properly. This one just didn't seem to have as much fire and explosivity. And then he retired afterwards, which is a real shame. So if you don't know Khalidov, go look him up, because he was very similar to Gegard Mousasi before Mousasi got to the UFC, where you're like, this guy's really good, I wonder what he could do in the UFC. But never made it there. And he basically just picked up all the titles outside the UFC, knocking out all sorts of people. Right, what we're going to do is I think we'll do a Holloway Ortega preview on Thursday. We'll do a little extra one this week. And I'll just do some questions now and then we'll get out of here. Oh, the other interesting piece of news that I completely forgot while I'm here looking at this page with the Holloway versus Ortega on it. Scott Coker, props to him. He managed to make Daron Cruickshank versus Kyoji Horiguchi at Rison, which is great. I mean, Daron Cruickshank's their bantamweight champion and Kyoji Horiguchi is Rison's bantamweight champion. Problem is that Kyoji Horiguchi's actually a flyweight and Darian Caldwell. Sorry, Darian Caldwell is actually a bantamweight and has gone up to featherweight very recently. So a bit of a size disparity, but will be interesting. I mean, I think Caldwell probably has the wrestling on him, but Horiguchi's just so good over distance. Not as in the distance of the fight, but as in the distance of the ring or cage. So props to Scott Coker getting that done. Right, questions. Hello, Jack. The Marcus Maidana of putting in honor. I don't know what that is. The Dylan Dennis of hitting the canvas. The Hongman Choi of the Patreon boys. My question deals with a vague and unquantifiable aspect of MMA. I have often heard the accusation lobbed at certain fighters, namely by Dana White, that certain fighters choke in big fights. Kenny Florian comes to mind. I realise that you can't trust a thing that comes out of the red-faced beefsteak tomato of a man's mouth. But this got me thinking, are there any instances of this occurring that cannot be attributed to a difference in overall skill or a technical or stylistic flaw in one's overall game? Keep up the great work. Your Canadian Patreon boy forever, Stefan. In terms of fighters choking in big fights, I mean, there are plenty. I think there are hundreds and hundreds of times where the mental aspect makes a huge difference. Let's take, for example, Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor. Another one where it ended so quickly, we have no idea about the actual matchup, that we are no more educated than we were before the match happened. We know that Aldo's older now and a little bit more hittable, but Aldo just came out and rushed him. And, who knows, was that the months and months of of talking and bullshit up to the fight. Was he angry? Who knows? Maybe he was trying to catch him cold like he did Cub Swanson. But that was a very clear decision that got him into trouble rather than the general level of skill overall. I mean, we were talking about Bader last week when he came out against Rumble. Ryan Bader, having watched him strike with other dudes, is good enough that he could have, picked at Rumble and not got hit particularly hard if he was confident and moving and trying to be elusive and hitting. But he didn't. He was terrified to strike, so he came out and dived on a really long, low single. Well, not low, really long, lazy single. And those are the ones that Johnson has barely even had to work on because that's day one stuff, stopping in the gym. Johnson's been working on, hit, sprawl on good wrestler. And, even the best wrestler in the world, if they take a really bad shot, they're a little bit easier to deal with if you've got all that distance to see him coming, especially if you're a good wrestler yourself like Johnson. And on the mental aspect, there are lots of fights that have just changed because a fighter was able to sort of break the bullying mentality of his opponent. One of my favourites is Robbie Lawler versus Matt Brown. Now, Matt Brown is not a guy who's scared of being hit in the face. He's not a bully in like the sense we say schoolyard bully, where, if you punch him back, they're just going to go away. They'll pick on someone who's not going to fight back. But Matt Brown came out to put the pressure on Robbie Lawler, and Robbie Lawler immediately sat down on the hardest counter right hook and left hand that he could throw. Not something that Robbie Lawler would necessarily normally do. Robbie Lawler likes to feel his opponents out and get their timing and stuff. But by doing that, he put Brown into sort of shell. Brown wasn't happy to just walk forward anymore. And then Brown was in this weird kickboxing match out of range, which is not Matt Brown. Matt Brown is walking dudes down and drowning them with pressure. So, if he'd been able to do that confidently against Robbie Lawler, I think he could have given Robbie Lawler a horrible fight. But instead he was in this sort of pseudo-kickboxing match that just wasn't his style at all. And that was a choice that he made because of something he'd been shown early on. Anyway, cheers, Stefan. Hey, Jack, I assume you've seen the Instagram post of Gordon Ryan training arduously, getting privates with John Danaher, and coaching Kron Gracie's academy, and even sleeping on the mats. Most people are pointing out that he's clearly on performance enhancers, but when I saw the post, I just thought, a 2-hour private with Danaher, surely that's an awful lot of listening from Ross. Yeah, God, Danaher's DVDs are among the best that you'll see. Maybe Ryan Hall's are better. But yeah, I mean, when Ryan Hall's talking, you're normally enjoying it. When Danaher's talking, he's talking. You're really feeling it. One thing that really made me laugh on this thing is that sleeping on the mats, Gordon Ryan keeps getting staph infection, and part of that is probably due to the fact that he shaves his arms and legs so that he can slip out of things. But also sleeping on the mats, I cannot think of anything grosser. Even if you're cleaning the mats 2-3 times a day, there's still those cracks in the mats that gunk gets down, which is just Mercer in gel form. Put your finger down the crack in the mats and then rub it in your gums. Just die. Yeah, he had a really interesting one lately. Actually, he had to drop out of KSI because I think he said the doctor found that he had HIV. Not HIV. Sorry, Hep, whichever one. C, I think, which he'd apparently been born with and has been treated for. Maybe that's not Hep B. Maybe that's Hep B, not Hep C. I forget. But basically, it's never been a problem for him before. But this test flagged him up as having it. Interesting, especially in a sport like grappling. Maybe less of a problem in a sport like grappling than in an actual blood sport like boxing or kickboxing or MMA. But then he is doing the combat jiu-jitsu. Allegedly. That thing seems to be falling through pretty quickly because Vinny Magalhaes was announced for it and then it turned out that he was actually fighting in MMA the same night. So he's definitely not doing the combat jiu-jitsu. Anyway, not really a question, but it made me chuckle thinking about Danaher giving a 2-hour private lesson. You'd be like, can I try the technique now? While he's busy going on about prior perception. Hi, Jack. I was wondering if you know anything about the Wigan Snake Pit and what its influence is. Wigan is my hometown, and I'm fascinated by the idea that it influenced 2 of my favourite pastimes, MMA and pro wrestling. Books about the Snake Pit, please let me know. Thanks a ton from Jake. I'm assuming that's not Jake Shannon, who would know this. But Jake Shannon did a really interesting book with Billy Robinson. He wrote a memoir, and Billy Robinson's memoir is fantastic. It's all about Billy Riley. Is it Joe Joyce? I can't remember his name. But all those old timers from the Snake Pit, because Billy Robinson was the champion of the world from the Snake Pit. Carl Gotch, and so on. And there's lots of interesting stuff in there, because Billy Robinson was going to be a boxer before he had his eye messed up by... I can't remember what it was. Was it a rocket or a sparring accident? But yeah, he had an eye injury, and then they decided like it wouldn't be possible for him to box anymore. So he tried wrestling and really got into it. And under the influence of guys like Riley, he became a really, really good wrestler, and then went into pro wrestling, obviously, because that's what you do in those days. But he taught Sakuraba the Kimura, basically, and that whole thing. And it was a huge influence on MMA as a result. I'm currently reading a book called The Last Wrestlers, which I've only just started because it's like a leisure book in between my actual history work for the poddy and stuff. But it's called, The Last Wrestlers, A Far-Flung Journey in Search of the Manly Art. Just only a few pages into that, but I suspect that'll probably have a section on it. Yeah, Chapter 3, Australia and England, that sounds about right. The Snake Pit is apparently still there. I've been meaning to go and check it out. One of the really old boys is still running it. Well, there's Tommy Hayes is one of the Snake Pit old-timers, and he would have been like a young whippersnap when the Snake Pit was really in its prime, but he still teaches Lancashire-style wrestling. I'm not sure where, but he is still around. If you search him on YouTube, you can get some like old English-style wrestling, and they're all wrestling in their jumpers, woolly jumpers. And then the Snake Pit in Wigan, I believe you can still go to. It's like if you Google Maps it, it's like basically it's this little old shack thing. They've matted it out pretty nicely inside now, but I think it's Roy Wood teaches there, and I think he's one of the guys who was very young when Robinson and that were around the Snake Pit. So it's still there. Like I've been meaning to go up and see it, but I've just never got round to it. I think it'd be great fun. During the London 2012 games, a lot of the wrestling athletes were visiting there or training there. The ones that were like interested in history / wanted a good place to train that wasn't a judo club in London. Actually, the Budokan or whatever it is in London, the Budokai. I can't remember what it's called, but the oldest judo club in London is an absolutely beautiful place. I think Ota teaches karate there. Yeah, there's some pretty good historical martial arts places in England to see, and I've not seen an awful lot of them. I really should, and I should write a fucking book about it, to be honest. Cheers, Jake. Hello, Jack. My question is about the benefits and drawbacks of durable fighters incorporating their chins as an integral part of their strategy. I'm sure you've seen, or at least heard about, the results of Liddell versus Ortiz 3, which I don't consider a valid contest considering the man Ortiz beat was not Chuck Liddell, but rather a shot body that had the memories of Chuck Liddell, and saw the finish, which saw the aged Liddell put down by a shot thrown by a man who had never had a standing KO finish, and was a shot Liddell wouldn't have even noticed had it hit him back in his prime. Seeing the consequences of Liddell's style, which relied heavily on his ability to take damage, and seeing how his true career ended with three knockout losses, made me question if such a style was actually effective. However, when I went back and watched Chuck Liddell fight in his prime, I saw that his style was not only effective, it also allowed him to capture the belt and hold it for 2 years. I am reminded of other fighters who are known for their uncommon durability to rise to and compete at the highest levels, such as John Lineker, Nick Diaz, and Dan Henderson. If a fighter discovers they possess extreme resilience to damage, should they integrate that ability into their style and game plans, or would they be better off learning true defense and how to avoid damage, even if their natural attributes beside their chin don't necessarily work well when combined with avoiding damage? Thanks for all the analysis, but I'm a little disappointed we didn't get a 15-minute rant on the travesty of Liddell being allowed to fight. Cheers from Blake. Right, I don't know if there are many fighters planning their strategy around going in and getting hit in the head. I think a lot of these guys are working on their head movement and shit in the gym, but just aren't good at it. They just go in and they do get hit. On the subject of whether someone getting hit a lot doesn't take away from their ability to fight. There is the science of fighting, and then there is fighting. And I think it doesn't diminish what you've done if you get hit a lot doing it. If you choose to burn up your body like that, there is nothing that says, a Rocky Marciano is worth any less than a Lennox Lewis. If you were talking about what style would you rather have, most of us would say the safer one. But equally, Rocky Marciano was able to stop guys so amazingly consistently by being in their face all the time. And he burnt himself out in training too, running like 10 miles a day or some shit. Just ridiculous. If he had been able to compete longer than he did, he had to quit due to back injuries, which were probably due to his training. But if he continued longer than he is, I expect there would have been a massive drop-off just from burnout. But fighters generally, they're all just using up resources. Your body is a finite resource. If someone takes more blows than someone else in their average fight, that's obviously going to age them quicker. But one way to think of it, or the way that I think of it, is that you aren't fighting the style, you're fighting the man. And you might have better technique, you might have them sussed out, you might have all their tells down to a T, you might be hitting them with every counter, and they still catch you in the last round and knock you out. They won the fight. It's a fight. There's the science of fighting, and then there's the art of fighting. And the science isn't exactly a science. It's not exact. I don't think taking huge amounts of damage to win fights is a good thing, but I don't think it in any way diminishes the quality of a fighter. I think we're judging. I talk a lot about technique because I'm really interested in the science of fighting, and other people are too. But when we're judging fighters, we're judging the man or the woman rather than just the style. So yeah, I don't think there's anything. The fact that Chuck burned up his resources by taking lots of blows, I don't think that takes away from what he was able to accomplish in any way. I think it also made for more exciting fights, to be honest. Liddell as a evasive counter wrestler / jabber, can't imagine that being much fun. I think really we just remember, you want to thank him for what they put their bodies through, each and every one of them. And it's still real to you, damn it. Cheers, Blake. Right, I reckon that'll do us for this episode. We're going to try and get another one in on Thursday because Ortega versus Holloway's coming up, and fingers crossed it all goes through. That is a banging fight. One championship destiny of champions. Fucking hell, these names are getting they're comedy names at this point. So I have no idea who's on that card. Let's have a check. Oh, unknown Pinoy? Oh yeah, no one important. No one important is on that card, don't worry. But otherwise we got Cage Warriors 100, which is interesting enough. Oh, Nicholas Dalby's back. Awesome. Then at UFC 231, we got Yoanna versus Valentina. So I get a good Valentina rant in while also saying she's probably going to win. Alex Oliveira versus Gunnar Nelson. Gunnar Nelson back at last after having his eyeball fingered. Hakeem Duado having picked up the win that they desperately wanted to get him in his first fight against Kyle Bochniak, who can take a hellacious beating. Thiago Santos is back versus Jimmy Manuwa. That's a fun fucking fight. Claudia Gadelia's there. Shame, but we'll put up with it. Jessica Rai versus Caitlin Chikugian. Right. Eric Anders versus Elias Theodorou. Gilbert Burns versus Olivia Oben. That's a fucking good fight. Olivia Oben Mercier versus Gilbert Burns. Chad Lepre versus Diego Lima. Yeah, that's a good card. I like it. I like it a lot. But we did lose Hanato Moicano and Mirsad Bektik off that card. Do you know who's not chomping at the bit to step in? Zabit. Oh. Anyway, if you want to get in on the Patreon and support the podcast / listen to the new episode about the Taiping Rebellion, which is both lengthy and entertaining, or at least informative. 2.5 hour episode on that to listen to. Sign up to the Patreon. If you want to buy a Blacksplosive t-shirt or a Boxed Up by Order of His Fistic Majesty t-shirt, click the link in the description. On YouTube, that is. Or go to fightprimer.com, where all my stuff is up all the time. Or at least when I get round to updating it. And if you want to send an email to the podcast, fightsgonebypodcast@gmail.com. I'm your boy Jack Slack. Yusuf bless.